Hey guys, so I just wedged my clay. I pounded it into a ball and I threw it down once on the paper. That pops any air bubbles inside the clay. Now I'm starting to roll the clay and I'm not letting it stick to the placemat. I'm rolling a little and I'm flipping it. And I'm doing that frequently. Again, you don't want your clay to have the opportunity to stick to your paper placemat. Now you need it to be as big as your paper plate or a little bit bigger because that's our template. Right now it's too thick and it's thicker in some spots. So I'm paying attention to those areas specifically. I'm checking the thickness. I want it to be about as thick as my pinky in the end. If it's too thick, it could potentially explode in the kiln. That happens when air expands or moisture expands in the firing process. Alternately, if it's too thin, it could break. Now I think it's big enough to trace my paper plate. I'm using a needle tool to cut around my paper plate. Again, the paper plate is simply a pattern or a template. We need a perfect circle. I'm cutting off the excess and making it into a ball. I may need that later. I'm trimming the excess. And again, I'm going to put it into this pile and save it for later. I'm cleaning my tool as I go. I like to just wipe off my tool on the clay. It cleans the needle tool really well. Now I have a circle, but it has some imperfections. So I'm going to go get a cup of water. I forgot to grab that and include it in my supply list. So with this cup of water, which really is slip, it has wet clay at the bottom, I'm brushing water on the cracks. Where you see cracks, it means it's dry. Now bigger cracks, I can fill in with some soft clay, like I'm patching a hole or a dent. I'm blending as I go. If it doesn't blend, I just add a little water and it makes it smoother. All right, now I'm going to add some design elements and give it a little texture. So I picked up this popsicle stick because it was what I had. And I started pressing it into the clay, making some lines. Then I added some fingerprints. That was actually a happy accident. I made a fingerprint. I thought it looked cool, so I added some more. Making these crisscrossing lines with the popsicle stick. You could use anything from a Lego to a rock, a stick, a button. Anything you could press into the clay could make a texture. If you repeat it, it makes a nice pattern. The textured side will actually be the inside of your bowl. We're going to flip it upside down over a bowl and we're going to form it, making it a little three-dimensional. So right now, I'm looking at the bottom of my Wiggly bowl. I'm going to keep this very smooth. It will sit on the table and I don't want to scratch it. So I'm shaping it, forming it, I should say. Shapes are flat, forms are three-dimensional. And I'm making the bottom very smooth, so I am forming it around the bottom of the bowl. I'm adding water where I see cracks, and I'm blending. Be sure to blend where you see cracks. You want it to be as smooth as possible on the bottom. I'm sometimes blending with the paintbrush and water and other times using my finger. And I'm realizing it needs a little help staying in place. So I'm making it wiggly, but I'm afraid it might droop. So I'm going to use the aid of some paper towel wads. I'm going to wad up the paper and put it underneath one of my wiggly parts. Now after it's dry, it will hold that form on its own. It just needs a little help overnight while it sets up. I'm getting another wad of paper towel to put on this side. And I'm being careful not to mess up the texture I have on the inside of the bowl. So I just very carefully place those paper towel wads. And now I'm just smoothing the bottom. And this is where I'm going to put my signature or my name. I'm using the needle tool that I used to cut out my circle, and I'm just carving my name. If you don't like what you have, just blend it out and try again. Don't forget to add the year. You'll want to remember that you made this in 2020. This is something you could have forever, as after it dries, we'll fire it in the kiln, we'll glaze it, and it'll be fully functional. I'm doing some last minute touch-ups, smoothing the cracks with water.